This is a D6 Generation Pip. Bite-sized content for a busy gamer. Sometimes featuring Craig, sometimes featuring Russ.
Hey, what about me?
Oh yeah, and sometimes featuring Raef, Hollywood Granger.
Hey, welcome everybody, and I apologize if you can hear a bunch of giant saws. It's Raef Hollywood Granger, and I'm here with my friend and colleague Jed Kelly. I'm gonna introduce you to him in a moment, but I've got some tree work going on outside. The utility company's coming by and chopping down a whole bunch of pine trees. So again, I apologize if you hear some saws, but Jed and I are in this business group that's called B&I, Business Networking International. We were having one of our little businessy one-to-ones, and I was just about to ask him what he did for fun when he then just volunteered that he has this really kind of, I don't know, what's the right term? I don't want to say, he didn't say the term geeky, but he was like, I got this really like geeky hobby. I'm like, wait, I'm in a geeky hobby too. Let me throw the recorder on. All right. So without further ado, let me introduce Jed. And he's going to talk to us about his hobby. Jed, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Raef. So I guess my geeky hobby is that over the last couple of years, I've really gotten into metal detecting, both probably because I really enjoy history, but also because I enjoy finding buried treasure.
All right. Well, I got 1,000 questions about this. So first of all, metal detecting. How'd you get started in that, or why?
Why? So other things I'm interested in are I also do a lot of bartering and trading items, and I had an item that I had posted on an online forum, and someone offered to trade me this metal detector for it. And I was like, okay, I guess I never really thought about doing that, but let's make that trade. Seemed like a good idea. I got it. I started just playing around in my yard. My kids got really into it. We were digging up all kinds of crazy stuff, Matchbox cars.
Really?
Yeah. Quarters and random junk, and they were having a fun time sifting through the dirt, and my lawn started to look like little crop circles had popped up.
That Disney movie holes.
Yeah. And so I guess that's how I got into it. All
right, what was the item?
What's that?
What was the item you bartered?
A broken snowblower. The guy wanted it for the motor to take off it and put it on a golf cart.
Okay.
Or a go-kart.
And is this the kind of metal detector where you've got the headphones and tell us about your metal detector?
They're basically all like that in a lot of ways. Most of them have headphones. Many of them have a speaker on the outside of it so that you don't have to wear the headphones. This one didn't come with headphones. It just had a speaker in it, and it was an older model, but it was very simple it had 2 knobs on it, so it was easy to use. Yeah.
Okay. And do metal detectors come with different power strengths of how deep down they can go or something?
Some they're kind of you get what you pay for sort of thing. They're different levels of quality, and they do different things, and some of them get really advanced as you move up in them. As far as depth, I've found things that were pretty deep with my original old metal detector, and I've also found things that were fairly deep with my more expensive one. I think the difference was with the old one, because it was just 2 knobs. I had no idea I knew there was something down there, but I didn't know where it was. It was could be anywhere from 1 inch to probably 10 inches, 12 inches, 14 inches. whereas the new ones, you can kind of pinpoint, and they have like some kind of depth perception to them where they can say, oh, it's about 3 to 6 inches down or 3 inches down or whatever. Yeah.
Now, this could just be the way you describe things, or getting the sense that when you talk about this hobby, you're afraid that you're going to bore people. So you just sort of gloss over some details. But this audience, okay. I know you're not a gamer, but this audience is like, if you asked any one of us about our miniature collection, we would bore you with all the details. So this audience does not want you to gloss over, like, they want to know the style number, the name, what all the features do, because there might be people listening out there that are like, I've always wanted to do that. And so, so let's start there. So let's say somebody's listening and they're like, I've kind of always wanted to do that. Sure. Where do you recommend they start as far as, like, I get it, they could jump on the internet. I don't mean that, but what features are they looking for? What's a good price range? Is this the type of thing where you're like, you're just starting out, don't spend a lot of money, you're just wasting it, get something better later? Or is this the type of hobby like, no, actually get some good equipment right out of the gate?
I guess there's multiple schools of thought on that.
Ooh,
I guess
love to hear them all. Okay, go ahead.
In my opinion, I guess starting out of the gate, I didn't know if I was going to enjoy that or this or not. It is a lot of up and down. So like you're walking, you're detecting, it's great. You're getting out and enjoying fresh air, but at the same time, then you're also on your knees digging in the dirt, like searching for, what could be the gold doubloon or a bottle cap. Yeah. And so, newer detectors, and you don't have to spend a whole lot to get to this point, but many newer detectors will actually have discrimination on them so that they can help you determine, like, is it a bottle cap or is it a gold doubloon or a ring or a piece of iron or whatever. So you can get a detector that, you can shut off iron, and so then you're not digging up every nail that you come across, or you can shut off tinfoil or other things like that, and kind of eliminate a lot of the things that you don't want to find, right? Or hopefully eliminate them. Now that's not true for every detector, and like I said, there's a range, right? You could start off with the cheap one that I got at the very beginning that doesn't have any of those features. It's kind of just on and off, and you could spend very little to find something like that.
Spend very little here in the United States. What would that cost today's dollars?
Oh, I think I saw one that's very similar to what I have as far as feature wise at like Harbor Freight for $50 or something like that.
Okay. And how about the cost of one that can discern things?
So the next level up, I got one that was kind of a major step up from that first one. And I think that was like $250.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And is there, does it discern it by, it says you could turn it off, like don't detect nails and stuff like that. Is there then other equipment? Like, do you need the right kind of headphones or something, or like any kind of headphones will plug into it? Or do they sell the metal detectors with headphones? Or
so when you start buying at a certain price point, and I'm not sure what price point it is, they start including stuff in their package. So like the $250 one, that did come with a set of headphones. It took a 1/4-inch jack. So really any like old school headphones that you got with like your old stereo system probably would have worked with it. The newest detector that I just added yesterday actually has Bluetooth. Is in Bluetooth enabled, so that I can listen, and actually I can have like up to 3 people, I think, listening at the same time with me if I wanted to. And it also has I think it's like an 1/8-inch jack or whatever, like the small headphone jack, so that you could use like a normal set of headphones with it if you wanted to. Yeah.
When you first started out, when you said you weren't sure if you would like it or not, what what made you be like, oh, this is kind of fun? Because kind of sitting for me, like, this is not a hobby that I think I'd ever do. Like as you know, you and I live on the seacoast, and I'll see people on the beach scanning back and forth. And I just figure, like, they're not going to find a Spanish doubloon. They're just going to find a bottle cap. That good. See, you're making a face like, oh, no, sure. That's exactly what I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
What that's like.
All right. I was detecting my yard, and that was cool. I was finding some toy cars. I found my property pins. I found.
And these weren't your kids' toy cars. These were toy cars from whenever.
Previous owners. Yeah. My house has been sold 3 times since the original, from the original owners. So there was families that had lived here before. But it's not that old of a house. So the level of what I was expecting to find the bar was pretty low, like some quarters, some dimes, nothing crazy. But, I'm a history enthusiast, and I happen to live in an area that has a lot of, history to it. And I ventured off my yard and into some more public areas, which there are a lot of rules. There are some rules out there about where you cannot metal detect.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And we can get into that if you want. But
I'm going to ask you. Yeah.
I went to this other property that I got permission to go on to, and that's a whole nother, getting permissions from property owners. But got a permission, went to this other property, and the first thing I dug was a ox shoe, and I didn't know what an ox shoe was, which is weird because I had oxen when I was a kid, but we didn't have ox shoes on them. But then that got me into looking it up. Went online, I found it, and then there was some history there. Hey, these are colonial era, very kind of an interesting old item. And then I started finding other really old stuff. And some of that was, that I was using that older detector that really didn't have any discrimination to it. So I was finding all kinds of old iron and junk. And then I started, it's starting to really enjoy this. And it was getting me out and about, and the kids were starting to, still enjoying it. Maybe some of it was wearing off because junky cast iron is not that appealing to kids. And so I upgraded to the other detector, and then started going to the beach. And beach detecting is kind of hard with that level of detector. They only detect on one frequency, and it's hard for them to discern from all the minerals in like water, compressed sand. It's not that easy. So so that metal detector did a great job when the sand was dry and loose, but when you started getting closer to the beach, it started getting all wonky and hard to read, and it would tell you something was there, but maybe it wasn't. It was just got all confused. So I was doing the beach, and I found a silver ring, and that was really cool. And that's then piqued my kids' interest again. Oh man, Dad found jewelry. My daughter said, "That's mine, Dad." Which then created one of the other great parts of our hobby when the kids go with me is that short of like a significant historical treasure, I always start it off with, short of something like that, they can have first pick of whatever we find if they come with.
Okay.
So, my son's pocketed a lot of toy Matchbox cars at this point, and quarters and things like that, or whatever he deemed the coolest find of the day. Oh yeah, if we found like a knife or something like that, that would be, certainly not allowed. But
okay, well, you got younger kids, but if they were older, then maybe.
Kids. Right, maybe. So yeah, I guess that's what brought me to the next level, or started getting me into it, and then got me more into it. And then we live in New Hampshire, and we have frozen ground in the wintertime. So to really want, you get the bug, you want to go. What's left that's open to detect is really the beach, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
okay.
Right. So and I've had lots of luck on the beach in the wintertime. I probably shouldn't be saying that out loud because now everyone will be out there with their detectors. But I have found some cool stuff. And to take it to the next level, you really need like a multi-frequency detector or something with what's called ground balancing that can, and this is really, I should preface this is really I'm no expert in this. I'm learning more about the hobby.
You're a hobbyist. You're a hobbyist.
Yeah, I'm a hobbyist. So I'm not, I'm sure there's people with way more expertise out there than I have. But the detector I had wasn't going to cut it to go into the wet stuff or anything like that. And so I just recently upgraded to a piece of equipment that can handle that wet sand, and it's actually, you can like put it underwater if you want to, or things like that. So yeah. So the other one, the middle one, you could go underwater with the part on the bottom, and I had used it in lakes before, but you can't get the brain or the little the little brain of it wet or anything.
I picture that.
Yeah.
Lots of questions off of that, but I'm going to go back to the oxen shoe. What made it was an oxen shoe that you've never seen before? And by the way, I don't think I've ever met another living human being that's had ox before, so that's cool.
That's another episode.
Isn't it just like a little horseshoe or something?
No, it's definitely, it's not. I was looking to see if it's, I think I put it on in a different display case. It actually looks like half a yin and yang, so a yin or something like that. So it's just kind of shaped, and then like the little thin curve of it is kind of it's kind of curved in a way where it kind of goes over the oxen's toe, if you want to think of it that way. And so oxen, not to go way off.
Now let's listen.
A
lot of history buffs are also miniature gamers, because history brings people, like the origin of miniature gaming. Now, most of our audience, we tend to not play historical miniature. That's almost a subset of miniatures. We play this game called Games Workshop, a lot of us, or War Machine, or even this company called Flames of War, which uses a 15 millimeter. But a lot of miniature gamers are history buffs, and they'll play, the Grecans and Roman armies, and Civil War armies are popular. And part of the joy is to historically represent your unit with the field colors that they would have had, and paint them that way, and make the dioramas that way. And so a lot of people listening to this do like history, is the long answer.
So a horseshoe, you think about the shape of a horseshoe, right?
Yep.
A horse's hoof is just one like solid mass, looks like a fist, right? Pounding into the dirt. Whereas an ox kind of has you want to say toes? Not really. It has two kind of, their hoof is split, right? So they actually have these two little metal.
Write that down.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have more like toes type of thing, like a deer might have or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the display case portable? Like if you took a moment to pop away from the camera?
Oh no, but I could grab a couple. I have right next to me. I kind of have like the some vines. They haven't made it upstairs yet. I'm still
yeah. Go grab those.
All right. Or do I?
Oh, no, you don't. You don't. It came in just fine. All right. So welcome back. Jed's going to show us some of his finds. And so if you're one of our Patreon and Discord subscribers, you can see this video and you can see me eating granola.
All right. Well, I won't read his name, but I found a dog tag recently. Sure, you can kind of see this, just a metal dog tag. And this actually I found in a rocky sort of area that had a lot of history as being like a spot. There was a hotel there back in the early 1800s. And I was kind of hoping to find some older, more historical type stuff. But what kept kind of coming up was a lot of miscellaneous coins, Canadian and American, but mostly newer stuff, latest maybe 1970s. But then I did find this dog tag, and I've been meaning to call the person because it looks like the phone number is on it, and it says it belongs to their dog Yoki. So when you're digging, sometimes you come across stuff that's not metal in a spot, right? You're digging, who knows, things show up for whatever reason. You get a signal, and then you're digging, and you find one thing, but also you find something else, right? So this is a tube. So for people that
hold it in front of your body, that way the camera, doesn't blur.
So this is a tube for knob and tube wiring.
Oh,
you always hear about the knob, or you see the knob often, but the tube is actually what goes through the floor joist or whatever. So you don't usually see these very often, and very weird to see them out and about. And it definitely took me off guard because it looks white and sort of burnt and kind of shaved down. I thought, oh man, I was thinking it was part of a clay pipe. Like an old, I'm like, yes. Not really. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
And then I find a lot of bullets, right? Spent casing. And then I find a lot of like lead that's usually, like a bullet. Sometimes it's all mushroomed, like from whatever it hit. And sometimes nothing. And then a lot of bullet casings. There's been so many manufacturers over the years that there's places where you can go online and pull up, like you can search, there's an image of a lion and a shield on here, and you can search that image, and there's like history, there's information about finding about different bullet manufacturers or casings, and who bought who and who's turned into who and who's no longer making and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the field, so to speak. So what is the general protocol? So we live in an area of New England where there's a lot of farmland, there's a lot of open pastures, a lot of rock walls, so let's say you're driving along, you're like, I wonder if along that rock wall, and that we don't have any, I don't think there are any Civil War battles up this far, right? I don't think so. I mean, we had Civil War regiments that went down in Pennsylvania and stuff and fought, but maybe they practiced up here. Anyway, let's say that you saw this field. Is the protocol, at least in our area of the states, the country, it could be different where you are, I get it, but is to go up and knock on that, find a house and knock and ask, or share with us the protocol among metal detectors here in our region anyway?
Well, so I do a little research. Sometimes, let's see, depending on the situation. Frequently, I'll look online at like maps and see if there are like state-owned non-historical lands. Those are land areas that maybe the state owns, not not necessarily property that's in trust, but like Fish and Game owns it or something like that, or is taking care of it. Those properties are definitely up for grabs. Go for it.
Okay.
Then property, like most parks you can detect in. Now there's some rules about like how close to like a gazebo you can detect in or something.
And where are these rules? Do you type in metal?
Oh yeah. So there's a very short list of rules you can type in, like metal detecting laws for New Hampshire, and there is like a small section, and it basically says that you can't detect in historical state parks, and there's a list actually of the specific places you can't go.
So that was going to be one of my questions. So we live near a place called Odeon State Park, where they have the old Revolutionary War, right? Am I right? Bunkers, with the ships protecting the port of Portsmouth.
Yep.
Okay, so that'd be an example of can't detect there.
Yep. Then on the other hand, I've gotten permissions in some state parks. You just need to ask. You go to the ranger station and just ask them, "Hey, can I detect here?" Some are okay and some are not, and it's variable. You just kind of have to see. And some of them have rules like, yeah, you can, but you can't do it in this space or this space or that, whatever.
Okay.
So as far as like detecting somebody's property, I always ask first. You don't want to be I don't want to walk on someone's yard and start digging holes. No.
Is that weird in today's day and age where, like, I find when somebody's on my front door that's not a UPS or Amazon delivery driver and it's not politics season, I'm like, what in the hell do you want? Right? Because I'm of the generation, I can't remember, Jed, if you are not, probably close to it, of we didn't grow up with cell phones. And so, you knocked on people's doors and you spoke to them and asked things, and it wasn't unusual. And neighbors would come over just by coming over. Like, they didn't text you to be like, I'm on the way. My mom's friends, I'll never forget it. They'd smoke their cigarettes at the kitchen table and talk mom stuff, and they just appeared at each other's doorstep or at least planned it 3 days before. So do you get a lot of weird looks?
You get some, for sure. Most of the door knocking I've done was as a result of I went to the library or looked online. I found out some history about the area that I was looking at, and so I'm like looking for the farmhouse of so and so that used to be on this map from 1870, right? And so maybe that house is there, maybe it's not, but if I can, I try to do some research first. But yeah, usually you just wind up knocking on the door, and I never had anyone say no. I've had some people be like, well, I want to see what you find. Some people said, I don't care, just take the trash with you. But I always volunteer. I always say, hey, anything I dig, I'm going to take the garbage with me. So you, at the very least, you'll be, you won't have that trash in your yard anymore. And people are usually like, yeah, whatever, go for it, have fun. Yeah.
It reminds me, I have one metal detecting story. Nobody knows the truth of this story. You're going to hear it first, and all you listeners, except for my wife. And what it was is I had bought her an engagement ring. This was, 18 years ago. And I remember spending a lot of money on this engagement ring. And it was still in the box. She knew, she picked it out because this is second marriage for both of us. And we were at our house in Concord, and we got into a huge fight. I mean, massive fight. And I don't remember how this happened, but somehow the box appeared. I don't know if she was like, take your damn ring or what. And I'm like, oh, you want me to take the ring? And I don't remember what was said, but I remember, that those fights where you're so mad you see red and the box was red. I took the box and I hurled it as far as I could into the yard. And the ring flew out of the box, and I could see its trajectory.
Sure.
And she was like, what are you doing? And I was so mad. I'm like, this is what you think of it? Or, I was like, fine. And I threw it. She was like, what? She was so stunned. So this ring was lost after we calmed down. The ring was lost. I mean, dude, I'm not saying I kind of chucked it. I hurled it as hard as I could. I was so pissed. So we bought a metal detector, just a little Walmart one.
Sure.
Found all sorts of, like you said, nails, bottle caps, nothing interesting. Did not find the ring. There's 2 end caps to this story. Did not enjoy metal detecting. Maybe it was because under those circumstances.
Sure.
Here's how. So I've always been good. No one's heard this before, Jed. Nobody. The listeners, they're getting a real inside scoop. I've always been sort of good at finding things that are lost. Almost to the point, I've never found people. I've only found things. Almost to the point where I'm like, I should hire myself out to the FBI or something like that. Like almost to that level. And what'll happen is I'll sort of get a little mini vision of where I think the thing is. So a lot of times my wife will be like, it's stuff more than the phone, because the phone's always kept in like 5 places, but somebody loses, not the TV remote, not the phone, but something else, not keys, something else a little more important, a book, let's say, that she's trying to find. And I get a little snapshot vision of where it is. I'm not exactly convinced that it's a true psychic vision or anything, because it could be that, this theory of how our brains sort of just record everything that we see peripherally. And it also could be that I'm deducing logic. So it might be like, it's a book. Okay, it could be on the kitchen sink. It could be near where the thing is. It could be in the car, even though she's like convinced you to bring in the, you know what I mean? So I'm not convinced that I'm seeing a vision, or if I'm just logically kind of very quickly mapping out where stuff is. But I usually can find things. Well, this ring, Jed, I had a dream. I was searching for it for days. And I had a dream where I was like, it's not where I think it is. It was, I thought I saw it like gleam and clink over here. And I pictured in my dream, like it was a waking dream, my foot next to a twig. And I looked down at my foot and there was the ring. And I woke up from the dream, put my clothes on, and I was looking over in this quadrant, and this was like 50 feet in a different area, like physics. I don't know how it ended there. I went right out to the area of the woods and the stick. I looked down by my foot and there was the ring. I found it.
Nice.
So that's my metal detecting story. Now there's a secondary advice, a secondary thing I learned from this, which was, I was like, I have the greatest wife on the planet. And we weren't married yet, where I was like, I took her ring in like a toddler rage, threw it into the woods, like a grown man. That's how. And if that was me, if she would have taken one of my prized possessions and done that, I don't know that I'd ever forgive her or something like that, and she just sort of, forgive is not even the right word, but it's an event we laugh about to this day. But I've never felt more loved by another human being than I did in the moment of her grace of like 2 days later, when I was like, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry I did that. And she was like, it's okay. We'll find it. And I was like, wow, this is what it's like to be really loved by another person. Sure. So those are my two little stories. No luck with the metal detector, though.
No luck with the detector, though. Well, depending on your detector, I mean, like I said, not all of them are created equally.
Yeah, I should have hired you. Speaking of hiring, are there professional metal detectors? Are there people that get hired by historical?
I would imagine there must be. I'm not familiar with anyone that's like advertising it as a business. If you go onto like Facebook, there's a whole bunch of metal detecting groups.
Oh, that was going to be one of my questions. If somebody's interested, where do they look? Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook. There's a bunch of different groups. I'm a member of a few local groups, and then maybe some more national type ones. And, there are people like in your situation that post something, or, they join the group, and they only join the group because, hey, I live in wherever. We were at the beach. My wife's wedding band slipped off. We know about where it was. Is there anyone that might be able to come by with a metal detector and help us take it? And, there are some names that are come to mind immediately that like, oh, I don't know this person. I did they're in the same area that I'm in. We have mutual acquaintances or friends, but that person's name rings out as someone that will frequently like drop everything and run with their metal detector to go
find the gold ring or whatever.
Find a gold ring. Or
have you ever done that for anybody?
My equipment's not really. I just recently got equipment that I'm confident enough that it could do that.
I'm worth helping somebody.
Would. Yeah. I probably would.
Now, are you a coin collecting enthusiast too? Has this gotten you into that where you're finding all sorts of old coins?
Not yet. Not yet. I'm probably more of like, oh wow, look at this cool piece of junk, and wow, I wonder what that could have been part of.
So one of my favorite shows to watch, I haven't watched it in a long time, is American Pickers. Is there stuff in the picking world where you're like, oh yeah, old sections of barbed wire, that's huge among collectors of barbed wire? Is there anything like that that's not a coin?
Well, people pull like, it's amazing how many people pull like old pocket knives or handguns.
Handguns?
Yeah. Other weapons, things like that. You see a lot. Odds and ends, really. License plates, old license plates, like 1920s license plates, kind of stuff like that. People, we're living in a world where people just threw their trash everywhere for a long time. So it's hard to say.
Do you watch American Pickers?
Occasionally. Yeah.
There was an episode, I think they used a metal detector where I don't remember the
motorcycle under the ground.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Actually, recently I saw an article where someone was metal detecting in Europe and found a Soviet motorcycle that had been buried during World War II because they didn't want the other forces to get it, and they pulled a whole motorcycle up out of the ground. But yeah.
Have you? Yeah. Are there any stories here in America of like what's the like cool thing to find in America? Is it just the Civil War bullets?
Well, a lot of Civil War hunting. So like on YouTube, for instance, there are lots of people that are out with like a GoPro or whatever, and they're out metal detecting. And
I totally forgot about YouTube.
Yeah, always finding a variety of things. There's some people that are really focused on finding World War or Civil War or relics or things like that, Revolutionary War relics, things like that. I'm not going to like divulge the entirety of this because I think people can do their own research if they're really interested. But There's certain parts of the New Hampshire coastline where people have found gold coins that were. It's figured that like a ship went aground off the coast somewhere, and so there are certain areas where you can find interesting things like that, and then like places with a tourist industry. So a lot of beaches that have high tourist turnover. Well, you're gonna find like that's where I found that silver ring that my daughter covets. Is in one of those areas where just people are vacationing and they're sunning themselves or playing and they're losing an earring or a bracelet or whatever, that sort of thing. So I think there's it's just depends on what you're after.
How many miles would you say like the Hampton Beach is? Because I'm going to ask you a protocol question. Is that like 3 miles?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's probably something like that.
Let's say that's the winter time, like now, and I see you out scanning, and I'm a metal detector person. What's the protocol, at least for our area of the world? Is it like 1 football length away, or like don't go to that beach at all, or so it doesn't look like you're trying to steal somebody's section, or are you like, oh no, you can walk right up next to them? Or
I've never. I've been at a beach before where I'm walking past the person maybe a few feet away, I'm doing my thing, they're doing their thing.
Okay.
I don't know if I've never heard of anyone saying, oh, there's a protocol. I know sometimes metal detectors will react funny with another metal detector next to it. So I don't like go chasing targets right next to somebody else necessarily, but I'm not worried if we're on the same beach together, especially since most machines, like I said, many machines aren't created equally. So some machines are better at doing one thing over another thing. And so, like for instance, I've many people upgrade and then re-hit the same areas that they hit before with a newer machine because you are detecting at different frequencies and there's an opportunity to find things that you missed.
Okay. Last couple of questions. Are there metal detectors? Funny now about what I'm about to ask. Are there detectors that can detect bone or something? Like what if I wanted to try to find arrowheads made of stone or something?
So I think you might be looking at something more, I think there must be a way to like look below the ground, but it's probably not a metal detector you're looking for. It's some kind of like
Sonos or something.
Yeah, sono. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if maybe you'd be like, well, funny you should say that. In stone is this one metal that we can pick up. That's how we find arrowheads or something like that.
I mean, so funny you say that because my father-in-law is really into meteorites. He is crazy about meteorites. And so recently, while I was metal detecting in an area, I had a piece of rock or stone or whatever the material was. It looks like a rock to me that kept ringing on my metal detector. And so I took out my little pinpointing metal detector and checked it. And yeah, sure enough, like there was some kind of metal in it. And so I wound up giving it to him to research further and see if maybe it was a meteorite or if it just has like a high mineral content, metal content inside of it.
Neat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're still, I don't know what it contains at this point. I can check in with you when.
Okay. Yeah, we'll update.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to say about metal? We'll wrap it up. Is there anything that you'd like to say about metal detecting that I haven't asked you?
I think it's a really fun hobby. If you're looking for something that's going to like get you outside and you enjoy the thrill of the hunt, and maybe you can accept that you're not going to find buried treasure your first time out, that who knows what you're going to find. But it does get people out and about. Oh man, I wish I could remember the guy's name. One of my favorite shows or things associated with metal detecting is there's a famous like WWF wrestler that had a show about metal detecting as a business.
Really?
So, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. Someone would have to look it up, but and it was great. It was very entertaining. But I don't know. I think it's an enjoyable thing, and aside from the initial investment of the detector and maybe a couple other odds and ends, you can get into it.
You can get into it, yeah.
Yeah, you can get into it, and then you can pick it up from there. I mean,
yeah,
hobby, right? You can.
That's what I love about hobbies. I once thought about creating a podcast just about hobbies. People are beer can collectors. People are like, when I was a kid, for some reason, I collected cigar boxes. And it all started from, I saw this one really cool cigar box at a garage sale for like 10 cents. It had all this beautiful art and stickers. And I didn't even know it was a hobby. But then this was pre-internet, so you kind of had to get a book on it. But it was, it's a hobby. Like people collect that because of the artwork, and they're unique and stuff, and made of different woods and come from different regions of the country. And it was a whole hobby. So I thought that was neat. You might not know the answer to this, but this is a typical Raef question for these types of shows where, Jed, do you know from your either history or metal detecting, I'm always fascinated when I'm out walking in the woods. And I grew up in an area where I had lots of woods behind me. And in the middle of the woods was this old rusted out car, looked like, I don't know cars, but this wasn't 1950s. It was 1920s or something, or an old tractor. And there'd be the old kind of jug, with the metal handle and the big round jug with the spout. And there'd be all sorts of cans, and it'd almost be like someone parked their car and camped there. And I was like, why is this here? Is this do you know, do you just have, I've always wondered, like, is this the scenario where, well, this was just a grassy field and it was part of some farmer's thing and the shed burnt down around it 100 years ago. And now this is the remnants of that, even though to me there's big boulders and it looks like a forest with dry oak leaves everywhere. Is that what kind of happens, or I don't know? I just always wonder about those things.
Oh, well, it's funny you mentioned this. And I just saw this book at the library. Unfortunately, I'm like maxed out and I need to return a couple books before
I won't tell anybody.
There is this book that I just saw about how landscapes age. So like how a farm used to look, and traditionally what a farm used to look like, and how they did their plantings and how they planted their trees or scaped their lawns or yards or whatever. And so this is what it would look like after so many years of deterioration or whatever. So I've been meaning to check that book out because I think that would be like,
I definitely want to know the name of that book.
To be able to be walking in the woods and be like, oh, look at these elm trees that are in a row. There must have been something, like here. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know the name of that book. And then along those lines, I just got to do that made me think of when you said vintage and stuff of like how our barns up here in New England, I don't know again if this is worldwide, but they have a distinctive red pattern, red paint color that's distinctive to New England. And I can't remember all the details, but it had to do with the fact that red paint back in the day was the cheapest kind of paint ever around. And it had a specific kind of pigment in it from like the local clay, I think. And they put that in the paint and farmers used it because, again, it was cheaper than paint. But then over time, it all ages to that unique New England red barn look. And so I love that kind of history. And the most recent one that I got into was, have you ever heard of selvage denim?
No.
Okay. So friend of mine, he was wearing this really cool jean jacket, and it was this like, that's right. We do have to go, don't we, Jed? Yeah. Sorry. We'll have to pause.
Keep going, but I'm like close to.
We'll have to pause, listeners, for.
We can do a part 2 if you want.
We'll do part 2. I should get him on it. Who got me? That's what I'll do. I'll get him on. His name's Aaron. Okay. Hey, thanks for doing this, Jed. Yeah, we do have to go. We're 10 minutes over our scheduled time. And Jed, if for some reason people are interested and want to communicate with you, how do they reach out to you?
You can shoot me an email, my business email, I guess.
Whatever you want.
Jed at jskellyhomeinspections.com. JED at JSKELLEYHOMEINSPECTIONS.com.
All right. Thanks for the spelling of that. That was awesome. And see you later.
Hey, thank you.
Achievement unlocked. You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at info@thed6generation.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Thanks for listening and happy gaming.